There's an important safety measure that you can take when setting up your table saw, no matter what size it is, that a lot of people aren't even aware of. And that is setting your fence up to help you avoid kickbacks. No matter what kind of table saw you have, you're gonna have a blade and a fence. The best way to try to avoid having kickbacks is to make sure that you set your fence toed out away from the blade about 1/16 of an inch within the blade's width, so that you have the least likeliness of material pinching between the back of the blade and the fence, which is where most kickbacks come from. You might be thinking you want to have your fence perfectly parallel to the blade, but in actuality, it's safer to have your fence toed out just a hair. So how this works is you want to move your fence all the way over till it's touching the blade, at least in the front. From there, you can make the necessary adjustments to your fence to make sure that your blade touches your fence in the front, yet on the back side of the blade, there is a little bit of a space, no more than 1/16 of an inch. With this fence on my table saw, I'm able to set this up one time because of where the adjustment is and the way that it attaches. Some table saws, like my smaller job site style table saw, does not have this type of adjustment. So I actually have to check each and every time to make sure that I have my fence toed out just a little bit at the back. So once you set up to where you have your fence touching the blade at the front of the blade, yet there is about a 1/16 inch gap at the back of the blade, that's when you actually set your measurements up, because you're going to be cutting with the front of the blade. Right between the front of the blade and the fence, that's where you want to set your measurements up on your table saw if you have them. So if I want a perfect 12 inches, I set this up first, then move my fence out, measure it between them with my tape measure until I have a perfect 12. Then I can set my saw and even adjust the saw's gauge if I like. Well, towing out your fence can be super helpful to avoiding kickbacks, as well as burns on your material when you're cutting it. So if you're cutting a long piece of wood, you don't want to stop going through it so that you don't get burn marks from the blade. If your fence is pinching at the back, you're going to get burn marks the entire length of it, which is going to just make the more steps from having to sand those saw marks out if they'll be seen.